You may have heard that the new supplement for Dead Man's Hand, the Bad and the Ugly, is due out. In fact, it's out. It was out on the 27th, and you may well be wondering what it's like. Well, I received my copy in the post, and today we're going to be going through this and the extra goodies that I got. So without further ado, let's jump down to the workbench and let's check it out. Okay, so first up I got two free figures. I think they're free, possibly I paid for them, I can't remember. But essentially I got the Bad and the Ugly, and they will go with my Good figure. So I have now the set, the Good, the Bad and the Ugly, which I'm really excited about. And I think one of my next sort of tasks for Dead Man's Hand will be to get them all painted up so that I can have them in some games coming up. So really pleased to have those in the collection. Next up, because I was doing the pre-order, I also decided to take advantage of putting a purchase in, and I picked up these, I guess they're initiative tokens, and essentially instead of playing the cards from the card deck, I'll just be able to have these in a bag and take or a pile and take them out and put them down face down on the players, and then turn them over. They should take up less space on the table. Not essential for playing the game, as I say, you can use the card deck, but I thought it would be quite a nice little extra sort of play feature or sort of accessory to make the game maybe a little bit better on the eye and maybe a little bit less crowded on the table. Okay, next up I got the cards. I chose the option that came with the faction cards. These are nice little quick reference cards, essentially. Again, not required for the game because you can go into the supplement and find the information there, but it's quite nice if you are playing a particular faction just to have this next to you on the table. It saves you having to dive back in to the book and find the correct page, particularly if you're already looking at another page for something else. This just allows you to have that information to hand. I also, over here on the right, have the cards for the Bad and the Ugly, and again this is just a sort of a quick reference card. I may well in the future try to produce my own for my own characters from Briscoe County Junior, just so that I again don't have to keep referring back to my memory, which doesn't always serve me well. And finally, before we get to the supplement, it also comes with the card deck. This has the additional playing cards that you need when you're playing the particular factions in the supplement, which you then add into your playing deck that you play with. So obviously quite important, and I'm pretty sure even the basic version of the supplement comes with this card deck. So be confident that if you do pick this up, you will get the card deck with it. Okay, and now we've got the sort of additional bits that I purchased out of the way, we'll move on to the supplement itself. And as expected, the quality is absolutely on par with Dead Man's Hand Redux rulebook and the Good supplement, which is obviously the previous supplement that's come out. The front cover looks fantastic and gives us a real idea about what we're going to see in this supplement. And turning into the front page, I have to say, what a striking picture this is on the left. It definitely inspires and gives some ideas of what you could aim for on your gaming tables for playing Dead Man's Hand. Now, moving on to this short sort of introductory couple of paragraphs here, I will say I think I've probably misrepresented what this supplement was going to be in the kind of pre-release video that I did a few weeks ago. I think I described it as sort of the bad guys in this book, but this intro definitely sort of rebukes that and basically states that, you know, within Dead Man's Hand there are no good guys and bad guys. Essentially what we've got is the good kind of talk about the factions that use the red cards, the red suits or common cards, and then the bad and the ugly cover those that use the black common cards.
And ultimately, you know, within the game, the factions may well do things that benefit the townsfolk. However, for some factions, that might be just a happy coincidence rather than an intentional action. So if you think of it like that, that just adds extra narrative and flavour, again, to your games of Dead Man's Hand. Now we've got lots of new factions, so we'll jump straight into this and we'll go through. I'm not going to hang about on factions too long because if you want to see them, go over and pick up a copy. It's well worth it from my point of view. So we start off with the US Cavalry and move on into the Bandidos. These possibly are sort of more Mexican based faction. And then we move on to the Bushrangers. Now, reading a little bit about these are people who have turned to a life of crime, and essentially that is what they live for now. Moving on, we have the Confederados, who essentially are ex-Confederate soldiers from the American Civil War who haven't really accepted that the war is over yet, and definitely could add quite an interesting narrative storyline into a game of Dead Man's Hand. Next up, we have the Family, and this is really sort of the flavour I'm getting from this is sort of a more kind of religious family, whether this is, I don't know, maybe historically from, say, the Mormons, or maybe it's an Amish, or some other religious group or family. Moving on, we then have the Kelly Gang, and it's really cool to see this, particularly these figures, which I believe Great Escape Games have released to go with this supplement. And these figures are great. They've got armour following the sort of famous Ned Kelly and his gang wearing armour. And then we move on to the Pinkertons. I really like the look of these figures, I have to say. Their sort of trench coats all being the same colour is just, I think, quite eye-catching in some ways, and they may well be fun to have. I think for these guys particularly, I'm going to be looking at this Bounty Hunter line, stat line that's there, and I may well use that in the future for Bowler and Briscoe. Moving on then, we come to the Renegade Apaches, and I think these guys will be quite fun in the sense that I could imagine them being really useful in hand-to-hand combat, and this may well be a sort of faction that you play differently than most of the others, where they're looking at firearms and you're looking at sort of firing from a distance. And then we move on to the Regulators. Now, these guys I really like, and the reason for it is I believe this is based on Billy the Kid and his gang, and certainly looking at the characters, it reminds me very much of the film Young Guns, of course, based on Billy the Kid and his gang. Or is it Jesse James? No, I'm pretty sure it's Billy the Kid. So I think these may well be a faction that I put towards the top of my list along with the Magnificent Seven for picking up, because I just think they would be a lot of fun to have in a game. And then we move on to the ugly section of the rulebook, and I'm not sorry, the supplement, and I'm not talking about the sort of quality, but in fact the elements which they put into this supplement, which are more sort of vampires, kind of weird Wild West. So here we have some ungodly, terrifying pack of Howl. We've got an ungodly, terrifying elite, which essentially looks like a big crow. We've got sort of this undead bear, zombie sort of bear, and then we've got a group of vultures. And these tie in later on to some of the factions. The first real faction, I guess, is the Spirit Walkers. And again, it sort of ties in with the theme. We then have the Count and his merry band of interesting individuals, including Cossacks. And then, if I can turn the page, we go on to the Baron. There's a little bit more to the Baron, and he has a very interesting sort of faction list, including some of those creatures that we saw at the start of this section. and there's a little bit here about the Baron campaign experience. So I suspect there's more to find out about this faction. But there's also some new weapons as well, such as sorry, not weapons. Well, there is the cane sword, I guess. So there's a few extra details there that if you want to play this sort of weird Wild West, it's well worth getting this for. And then, funnily, the Malevolent 7, which essentially is a skeleton version of the Magnificent 7. And I'm not talking about them being light on numbers, but in fact, they are actually skeletons, which is quite amusing, I think. We then move on to the Legends of the West. So these are some of the more historical characters and some from the film, such as the Bad and the Ugly are in this. But we also get other characters like Pat Garrett and Dolores Wood. So if you're interested in that sort of more historical level, or certainly from the film side of things as well, then this is an addition to the Legends of the West section that we saw in The Good as well. We then move on to the scenes, and we've got 4 new acts, which each have 3 scenes. And if you're interested in seeing how one of these acts plays out, then check out the channel with the Dead Man's Hand playlist, because that has 3 games that I've played, each of which are a scene from the first act from the Dead Man's Hand Redux rulebook. So definitely check that out to see how they play. And as I said before, the presentation is up to Greatest Games high standard, and we have here the acts presented in their sort of newspaper style, which I absolutely love and think is absolutely brilliant. And then right at the end, then we have just a short section on the Jokers and a couple of the new Joker cards that we see in the deck. And that is it for the supplement. I think it is absolutely value for money. I think if you're interested in playing Dead Man's Hand, then this is, I would say, probably a must-buy. It adds more flavour and more narrative, more factions and new little mini campaigns as well. Particularly if you're into the weird Wild West, this is a bit of a no-brainer, I would suspect, for you. Now, if you've been enjoying the content on the channel, then do check out my next video, which is coming out on Wednesday, where I will be diving back into my How to Play NARM 68 series. And if you are interested in that game, or you've just picked it up, then definitely check out these videos. There is a playlist as well with my previous videos where I go through the different elements of the rules and really walk through and talk through how to play those elements. Also, next Sunday I'll be bringing out another new video, not Vietnam related. I've been doing a lot of the Dead Man's Hand recently, but I'll be moving on to something slightly smaller and slightly different. In fact, very different. So if you're interested in what that might be, then definitely check that video out next Sunday. And until next time, take care, stay safe, and we'll see you soon.